Hi everyone. I got some more time today, so I'm going to make another video. Uh, this one's going to deal with I'm going to call it the United States of AstroTurf. And the reason I'm doing this video is because I don't think that a lot of people, even a lot of people that are well aware of many things that's going on right now, I don't think that some of these people, and I'm not saying this to down anybody, I'm just putting it out there because I think this information needs to be put out. A lot of what people think are natural occurrences in our society are actually just contrived events. And I'll get into more political stuff in a bit, but the first thing I want to talk about, and I have a long story that has to deal with this topic, and it's very, very interesting and very telling about the game that was played. Um, and the biggest psychological operation, well, I shouldn't say, well, yeah, it is, it's a psyop, but it's also the biggest AstroTurf operation that we have been exposed to in recent years is the flat Earth. Um, there, there is, I would say, less than 0.001% of the people that you think believe in flat Earth actually believe in flat Earth. I'm just going to tell you a story about how I came across this information a long way back, and then I'll go further into it. But I was on South Street, and I was still in school, so we're going back into the 90s, and there was these four girls dressed up in this whacked out gear protesting abortion with these crazy absurd signs, with fake abortions. And I'm looking at them, and something just didn't seem right to me because these were like young, pretty girls wearing these get-ups on South Street. And so, out of curiosity, I started talking to the one girl, and we ended up talking for a couple minutes. And it turned out that they were being paid by their sorority. Well, there was a bulletin board in their sorority of different jobs that they can make money doing, and this was one of them. And they were being paid by the Westboro Baptist Church to do this. That's who was funding their sorority. Now, what else I found out, this is now, keep in mind, this is back in or mid 90s. What else she told me is that they also were getting paid to post on this website called the Flat Earth Society. And they were getting paid to post pro-Christian comments and pretend that they believed in the flat Earth. This is what these sorority girls were actually getting paid to do. And I'm not even going to tell you what the sorority was or the ethnicity of the sorority because my video will probably get taken down, but I'll let you figure that out for yourself. So these girls were not only being paid to act like crazed anti-abortion protesters, they were also being paid to post on a website posing as Christians and pretending that they believed in the flat Earth. And at that point, even in 95, I knew the game that was being played at that point. And basically what it comes down to is that the Westboro Baptist Church is an intelligence front group. I don't know what intelligence agency. I have my theories on who is behind it, but I'm not going to say them because my video will probably get taken down. And the original, now keep in mind, this is back in 95, and the original Flat Earth Society, these were run by the same intelligence front group. And it seemed to me that the reason for both of these fake intelligence groups was to paint Christians in a horrible, horrible light. That's the only thing that it was accomplishing, was painting Christians in a horrible, horrible way. And that had passed, and I never had really thought too much more about it. I knew they were out there. I had seen the fake. I had seen later, like, more Westboro Baptist Church psyops that they did, and it should be pretty blatant for anybody that has half a brain cell to see that the Westboro Baptist Church is a front group for intelligence. Um, it's definitely easy to tell that it's an AstroTurf group that's just totally put out there to make Christian. And I'm not Christian, but let me assure you that there are institutions out there who are targeting Christians with psychological operations, and that's just two of them. And there's other operations that target Christians as well. A lot of the Satanists and the Illuminati stuff and the pedophile stuff, a lot of that is also AstroTurf stuff and fake stories that are targeted at Christians. And Christians need to be very aware that they are heavily targeted by psychological operations by a certain group of individuals, in my opinion. So I didn't think much more about it. So a lot of time went past, and then all of a sudden, I almost had forgotten about the flat Earth, because it was such a brief conversation. And I remembered about the Westboro Baptist Church, but the flat Earth thing kind of slipped my mind because I thought it was so retarded. But then all of a sudden, years later, on YouTube, they're all of a sudden, one day, from 1 week, it went from having 0 flat Earth content until the next week it had literally hundreds of channels pushing flat Earth. And I immediately, the second I saw it, I knew the game that was being played. And another thing that let me find this channel real quick as well. I think his name was, and this is how I found out about the YouTube scan. End all disease. This guy here. Now, this guy here, End All Disease, he used to have another YouTube channel. And I had kind of gotten somewhat friendly with him. I was always suspect with him because he kind of reminded me of like that trying to sell you a bunch of cures for diseases. And that's what he's still doing here under a different account. But he used to have another channel. It was actually called End All Disease and Stop the Robbery. And I ended up talking to him, and one conversation I had with him, he told me that he was going down to South America or Central America, I can't remember which one, with a bunch of other social media influencers. Tia Tequila, or whatever her name was, she was one of the ones that was going to be down there. So it was like basically it was like a shill getaway camp they went to, I'm guessing is what it was. It was probably intelligence run. I believe he's from Canada, but I'm not 100% sure. But so I didn't think anything of it. So he was gone for the summer. And then when he came back, the first video that he posted, and this was right the same time that all the flat earth shills came out of the woodwork. The first video that he posted was a video about the moon landing, and how that it was possibly staged. Now, I'm just going to tell you up front, I don't have any opinion on the moon landing at all. I don't have enough evidence personally to make an opinion of it either way. But one thing I will say, that I have seen evidence that puts it into question as far as to whether exactly if we were told the 100% truth about it. But I withhold judgment because I just don't have enough evidence. And there's a lot that goes into that whole thing. But what I want to get at here is that was the first video that he made when he got back from his little shill getaway camp. And the second video he made when he got back from his shill getaway camp was Flat Earth, and how he was showing scientific evidence that the Earth was flat. And see, now this is what was really telling to me, because what I realized soon as I saw it, I didn't realize this right away because I had to see about a hundred other channels. But what was actually done is what they did with Flat Earth on social media, on YouTube, is that they tried to connect the moon landing with Flat Earth. That was the goal of bringing Flat Earth to YouTube, was to connect those two topics. And the way I knew this is because when I would go to all these Flat Earth shield pages that had just showed up over the course of a month, it went from 0 Flat Earth content to, in a month, probably 1,000 channels that had Flat Earth content. Every single one of those channels, they only talked about two topics, and those two topics were the moon landing and Flat Earth. So that tells me one thing very, very blatantly, is that whoever is behind the Flat Earth shills on the internet really wanted to connect the moon landing and Flat Earth. Now, it later, Flat Earth on the internet, they decided to, eventually, it just got turned into a turd in the punch bowl. So that, and I mean, you can see this on any, like if you go to Joe Rogan's vids and look in the comment, anybody that says anything that's truthful and conspiracy related, you will have a shill show up in the comment section and try and put you into a category with the Flat Earth people. And here's another thing that I need people to understand about Flat Earth. People don't understand the lengths that these controllers, these social engineers, are willing to go through in order to have you believe that this demographic of people actually exists. They're willing to pay movie stars, or like Joe Rogan was used for a while, all these internet shills that talk about Flat Earth as if it's a real demographic, they're actually paid talking points. They're being paid or given talking points from their corporate masters or think tank masters to cover these topics, to actually try and get people to believe that there's actually a demographic that makes up Flat Earth, when in reality there is, I would say that 0.001% of the people you see talk about Flat Earth are actually people that believe that the Earth is. I would say it's even less than that. I'm going to go and say 100% of the Flat Earth people are, a lot of them, they could be atheists, because what happened is that a lot of these atheists like to clown on Christians, and they equate, like Flat Earth gets equated with Christianity a lot. So you have a lot of atheists that jumped on the bandwagon and like pretended to be people that believe in Flat Earth. But I just want people to understand the lengths that these people are willing to go to. And I'm going to show you one other example of the lengths these people were willing to go to have the population believe that there is a real demographic that believes in the Flat Earth, and there isn't. So this lady here, Merlin Spirit Level, I happened to be at a flea market in my area, and this lady here paid, and this is after I already knew the game that was being played. This was them really going into full gear with trying to convince the population that Flat Earth was a real demographic. When I saw what this lady was doing, I really understood the type of manipulation that we were being exposed to. So I was at a flea market one day, and I saw this lady here, and she paid to have a table set up and have Flat Earth and anti-NASA content at her table, and she was trying to talk to all the people that were there. And as soon as I saw her, I went right up to her and I looked her straight in the eye and I said, what think tank intelligence agency are you shilling for right now? And she looked at me like a ghost in the headlights, and she didn't know what to say. And she finally, about 30 seconds later, after staring at me with a dumbfounded look on her face, she just said, I'm just here trying to tell people the truth about NASA. And I'm like, yeah, okay, lady. And I didn't really think anything of it, right? And so, but what I did notice is that, like, in my area, there's a lot of, this was before the pandemic, we used to have a lot of, like, fairs and flea markets and that type of thing where it was open to the public. And this lady here was showing up to every single one of those events, trying to convince people of it. And what's even more funny is that she was laughed at constantly. Not a single person wanted anything to do with her, but yet she was still showing up to these things to try and convince the population that there was some demographic of the population that was actually believing these things. This is the length that these scummy intelligence agencies and think tanks are willing to go to get you to believe that these demographics actually exist. This lady here is a total front. She was being paid by somebody to go around the southeastern Pennsylvania area and try and convince the population that there was a real demographic of people who believes in the flat earth. And she's a total fucking intelligent shill and a disgrace to humanity. But I just want people to understand that there's huge amounts of resources that go into creating these AstroTurf movements that in some cases eventually go on to get a few idiots to go along with it, like that actually believe it. But like, even this is the way that this is handled with the flat earth is the same way that Antifa, BLM, and a lot of these right-wing that you're hearing about now, right-wing radical groups, they're all AstroTurf. I'm just going to go into here just so you can see, because Vice News is an intelligence front group. So if I go to Vice and I click in Antifa and right-wing, I wish I could find it. I saw one yesterday. I wish I could find it. There was one that was pretending that Vice News. Now, Vice News is an intelligence front. Everything on their channel is propaganda and social engineering. But they had one that was so humorous where they said that they were hanging out with a group of Antifa people who were plotting on how to take down, to disarm the right-wing extremists. And the whole thing was just an AstroTurf skit. And they put this out to people on the media to like have you believe that these demographics are really out there. And that they exist, and I'm not saying that in some cases they don't. And I mean, it was the same thing with Q. Q was the same thing, and before that it was Anonymous. These are all AstroTurf controlled front groups that the media, it's totally a farce. There's pretty much no group that's going to be in the U.S. right now in these times that isn't fully a group that is of any significance that isn't fully controlled by U.S. intelligence at their leadership. If you just go read the wiki on COINTELPRO, you can see the kind of ways that this is done. But I just want people to understand, like, a lot of times these AstroTurf groups do suck in real people. Like Q might have sucked in a few real people, but a majority of the people that you see that are posting on that topic is Q. I mean, they're paid for AstroTurf commenters and shills. The amount of fake accounts on social media probably outnumbers the real accounts at this point. And it's just, you have to be very careful about taking any of these groups that you're presented at face value. because there's a very, very good chance if there's a group that's being showed on TV and being promoted as like a real group that you need to be concerned about, there's a 99% chance that that group is an AstroTurf group and controlled by intelligence, and they want you to go affiliate yourself with that group so that you can then be marked and tagged as either somebody who agrees with this ideology or just a sucker basically who's. And you saw a lot of this with the fake riots too. So much of them protests and those riots were totally intelligence-controlled events. They were farce events. There's even proof of it if you actually looked on YouTube. I don't know if you could still find it, but it's on there. So that's the one thing I want people to understand is that a lot of what people think are like real groups that are, and it goes for both political parties as well. Okay, so I found that video about the Vice, intelligence-controlled Vice, and we camped out with the Antifa activists plotting to disarm the alt-right. Now, what I need people to understand is that this here is total nonsense, and all you have to do to understand about, honestly, if you just type in Vice News and Antifa or alt-right, you will be shown that these are obviously all AstroTurf and intelligence-created nonsense groups. It's blatantly obvious to anybody that can think for themselves and look through the slightest bit of bullshit. It's blatantly obvious that that Vice News is trying to portray a fantasy reality about the groups that are, about these fantasy groups, basically. So that's all. I just wanted to, I'm recording this after the fact, so I just wanted to come back just to show you how retarded that these people think you are. To actually think that you believe that they're camped out with Antifa activists plotting to disarm the alt-right. The whole thing's a AstroTurf farce, and I'm glad to see that there's at least enough people that understand that this is complete nonsense. That at least makes me a little happy. But the next thing I want to talk about, and this is going to be something that a lot of people are going to not like to hear, because in the current times, everybody is so stratified into their fake left-wing reality or fake right-wing reality. But the thing that I need you people to understand is that both of those fake realities are controlled by the very same people at the top. There's people are given the illusion that our politicians are on separate sides and that they're constantly battling with each other over how to run the country, and that is the furthest thing from the truth that is possible. This whole soap opera that you're being presented right now about this election and the election fraud and all that, that is all part of a predetermined script. Nothing that you're seeing happen right now about this election is by accident or spontaneous. I don't know where it's going to end at, but one thing I can tell you is that the whole thing is scripted, and I'm very interested to see what the surprise ending is going to be to their little soap opera, because that's exactly what is being presented to the two brainwashed sides of this country. And I'm just going to show you a couple examples of how this is being done. And here's one. Here's somebody who's being. This is somebody who's being funded to push the right-wing side of this predetermined soap opera that everybody, well, many people think is like not, that people think it's spontaneous, and like this election and all this stuff that has to do with the election is like a spontaneous thing. When in reality, both sides. See, this one's called the Next News Network, and this is the right side of the fantasy reality that is getting pushed onto the population, and they push all the fake right side stuff that is always gets pushed. But you got this other one. Now, you got to look at the names because I find it interesting how all these names are always so similar. Now, the next one is Now This News. So we got the Next News Network and Now This News. And what they are is they are the total opposing side of this other guy here. And what people need to understand is that both of these fake realities are being controlled by the same social engineers. And let me rest assured that the way that these people are presenting reality to you is a staged farce. It's a fantasy reality. And it's all trying to get people to feed into the demographics game that they want people to feed into. And it's blatantly obvious that a lot of these groups on both sides are at the top level being organized by the very same social engineers that are, it's the same soap opera basically. These people are both showing you the same soap opera from opposing sides. But the people at the very top are controlling both sides of this soap opera, and they already know the outcome, and they already know how they're going to use that outcome to get their way with the future of the population. It's all a demographics, marketing, PR, social engineering. Nothing is going to be left to chance in this whole process. If there's one thing that you can be 1,000% assured of, it's that the leadership of this country is not going to leave the owners of this country are not leaving anything to chance, including the election. And this is everything that you're seeing now is a pre-planned script that's going to lead people to their final conclusion of this farce, whatever that may be. It's going to be interesting to see. But that's one thing that I think is very, very important for people to understand. Our politicians are not against each other. It's only the idiots in the population who think the politicians are against each other that actually are sucked into both of these soap operas. This guy's version and these people's version. It's a total soap opera, social engineering, demographics scheme that is very, very, very well planned out and ahead of time. And the ending is already known to whoever's planning it. And that's the other thing that I need people to understand is that none of this stuff is left to chance. The owners of this country, the people who own this country and all the wealth, are not going to leave this type of the future of the country to any sort of chance event. This is all going to be planned out by social engineers and marketing psychologists to ensure that they get the exact outcome that they want to get. And that's one thing that I think all these left and right tards need to get ground into their heads, because I see so many people who are living in a fantasy reality that's literally being created by social engineers basically. And it's total AstroTurf. A very large majority of the left and the right is AstroTurf. And in this case, they've done a very, very good job of sucking a good bit of the population into their little AstroTurf scheme this time around. More so than I've seen in the past anyway. So I just wanted to talk about the political aspect of this whole AstroTurf social engineering game that is played on the population. That's all I want to say in this one. But take care, guys. I'll talk to you soon.